Hi, fifth grade. Today we're going to be doing Module 2, Lesson 23, and this is actually going to be the last lesson before we do our test for Module 2. And for this lesson, what we are going to do is we're going to be multiplying 3 or 4-digit numbers by 2-digit numbers. So we're just basically dividing numbers that are even bigger than the previous problems. So you should have out your Lesson 23 notes. And let's go ahead and get started with our first problem, which is 6,247 divided by 29. And for this problem, just like all the other ones, we're dividing this problem into 3 different steps. So we have our estimate step, we have our solve step, and then we have our check step. So we have 3 different steps that we need to accomplish. So what we're going to do is just like the previous lesson, I'm going to start by writing out my problem first. So 6,247 divided by 29. Now, something that I'm going to suggest when you are solving these problems is, yes, I know normally I would write this little comma right here in my thousands, but I'm actually going to not write it right here, even though I know that this number is in the thousands, just because I don't want to confuse myself later on. Just in case I have to do subtraction, I don't want to mistake that for like a number I've crossed out or something like that. So when I look at this problem, I ask myself, can 29 fit into 6? No, it cannot, so let's move on to the next set of place values. Can 29 fit into 62? 29 can fit into 62, and I know that because 29 is less than 62. So this is where I start my first estimate step. So what I'm first trying to solve for, I don't even look at the rest of this problem yet. I am just trying to solve for 62, so 62 divided by 29, and by now we should remember all those different steps we have for estimating different parts of our answer. So for example, 29, remember we round that usually to the nearest tens place, and in this case that would be 30. And then I think about my multiples of 30, and which multiple of 30 is closest to 62. So I have 30. 30 plus 30 is 60, and 60 is really close to 62. So I'm going to round 62 to 60. And then I'm going to divide. So remember, there's a 0 over here, so I cross this 0 off over here. And I'm left with 6 divided by 3, which gives me 2. And the reason why we do all this work is that that gives me a starting point for my problem. So instead of like just guessing and checking all these different numbers, I have a closer guess to what my answer could be. Remember, this number is not always going to be exactly correct, but at least it's a starting point. So now what I need to solve for is 29 times 2 is what, and I need to put that number right here. So off to the side, I'm just going to write 29 times 2. 9 times 2 is 18, and 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5, which gives me a product of 58. So this number goes right here because 29 times 2 is 58. I now need to subtract, and when I notice that I cannot do 2 minus 8, so I need to borrow. So I cross off the 2 and the 6. The 6 I'm borrowing from it, so I crossed off and it becomes a 5, and the 2 becomes a 12. Then I subtract 12 minus 8, and that is 4, and 5 minus 5 is 0. I'm not going to bother putting the 0 there though. Now, if you ever get confused with the steps, there is a tricky or a little acronym that you can use that will be a nice trick to help you remember all the different steps. And the acronym is, does McDonald's serve burgers, or does McDonald's sell burgers? So you start with your divide step, which was this step right here. Then you do your multiply. Then you do your subtraction. And then we bring down. So when we bring down, we're just bringing down the next place value, but we're only bringing down one number. We're not bringing down everything. The 7 will be brought down in the next step. So now what I need to figure out is how many times 29 can fit into 44. And for this step, I could probably just in my head guess, well, 29 times 2 is 58, and 58 is bigger than 44, so that doesn't work. So 29 times 1 is my only option right now. So I do 29 times 1, and that is just 29. So I did my divide step, I did my multiplication step, and now I'm doing my subtraction step. So I cannot do 4 minus 9, so I cross off this 4, I borrow from this 4, this becomes a 3, and this becomes a 14. Then I do 14 minus 9, which is 5, and 3 minus 2, which is 1. Now remember, we just finished our subtraction step, so now I'm on my bring down step. So this 7 all the way up there needs to be brought all the way down. And now I'm trying to figure out how many times can 29 fit into 157. And this is where we might want to use an estimate step to help us out. So what I'm trying to solve for right now is 157 divided by 29 is what? And to do that, I can use my estimate step to at least get me a starting point to finish off our problem. So remember, I can round 29 to 30. And then I'm going to think about what multiple of 30 is really close to 157. I already started my multiples of 30 over here, so I'm going to continue that. We have 30, 60, next is 90, 120, and 150. So what I notice right here is that 150 is really close to 157. So I'm going to stop right there and I'm going to see how many times did I count by 30 to get that 150. And I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Put the 150 here. And then 150 divided by 30 is just 5. So 5th grade, once I now get over to this step, I know that probably I can put a 5 up here, and when I multiply 29 times 5, I'm going to get a number that is really close to 157. So off to the side, I'll do 29 times 5. 9 times 5 is 45. 2 times 5 is 10, and 10 plus 4 is 14. 145 is very close to 157, and it is as close as I'm going to get without going over. So I did my divide step, I did my multiply step, and now I'm subtracting. 7 minus 5 is 2, and 5 minus 4 is 1. So my final answer is going to be 215, remainder 12. So that is my final answer. To check my answer, what I would need to do is I would need to take my quotient, multiply by my divisor, and then add my remainder. So I'm going to do that real quick to show you what that would look like. We do 5 times 9, which is 45. 1 times 9 is 9, and 9 plus 4 is 13. Then 9 times 2 is 18, and 18 plus 1 is 19. Then I have another digit that I need to multiply, but it is in the tens place, so I need to add the 0. 2 times 5 is 10, carry the 1, leave the 0. 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 plus 1 is 3. And 2 times 2 is 4. I'm now going to add all of this up together. So I have 5 plus 0 is 5, 3 plus 0 is 3, 9 plus 3 is 12, and 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 4 is 6. But remember, we're not done just yet. So far I have 6,235, but remember I have to add my remainder of 12. So I do 6,235 plus 12, 5 plus 2 is 7, 3 plus 1 is 4, 2, and 6, and I get this number right here, 6,247. That is the number that I started with, so I know I am correct. And that is the end of this problem. I know this is a lot of work, but just think about it. You learn how to do one-step problems. You've learned how to do two-step problems. The only thing different with this problem is that you're now adding on a third step. So it's a little bit more difficult, but you know how to do most of this. You're just adding on an extra step with bigger numbers. Let's move on to our next problem. This problem is on the back side of your worksheet. So I'm going to go ahead and erase real fast. If you didn't copy this down, please make sure you pause or rewind so that you can look at it. Now, for this page, we're going to be doing 4,289 divided by 52. Now, for this problem, we are again going to be estimating, solving, and checking. I'm going to start off by writing my problem down. 4,289 divided by 52. I'm actually going to write this a little bit straight. So 4,289 divided by 52. There we go, it looks a little bit better. Now for this problem, this one's kind of tricky because when I start off by seeing where I should start at, 52 can't fit into 4, but then when I move on to 52, can it fit into 42? It can't fit into that either. So that means I have to go 52, can it fit into 428? So I got to go pretty far down the line before I can start finding an answer. So all the way down here is where I'm going to be filling in first, unlike the last problem. So what I need to figure out right now is what 428 divided by 52 is, or how many groups of 52 can fit into 428. To do this, remember we estimate, so we're just trying to round our numbers or change them. So 52, its closest multiple of 10 is going to be 50. And then I'm going to think about my multiples of 50, and what multiple of 50 is as close as I'm going to get to 428. So I list out my multiples of 50, 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, and 400. Usually I don't like to go over, so I'm going to stop right there. And when I look at these numbers, I think about which one of these numbers is as close as I'm going to get to 428. That number would be 400. So I write 400 right here. And now I need to solve for 400 divided by 50. There's only one 0 over here, so I cross off the 1 0, and I cross off 1 0 over here. And then I'm going to rewrite this problem as 40 divided by 5, because that is what's left over. 40 divided by 5 would give me 8, and if you can't remember what 40 divided by 5 is, you can also think of this as 5 times what equals 40, and 5 times 8 gives you 40. So that's another trick that you can use. So since I have this 8 right here, that kind of tells me that maybe I could put an 8 up here, and that would be a good starting point for my problem. So off to the side, I know that I did my division step. I said that 8 groups of 52 can fit into 428. I now need to do my multiply step, so I'm going to do 52 times 8 and see what that equals. 2 times 8 is 16. 5 times 8 is 40, and 40 plus 1 is 416 altogether. So 416, I checked, does 416 fit into 428? It does, so I'll write this number here. So I did my multiply step, and now I need to subtract. So I do 8 minus 6, which gives me 2. 2 minus 1 gives me 1, and 4 minus 4 is just 0. Now, before I continue, I need to make sure that I bring down, because that's my next step. And then after that, I can continue solving. So now what I'm trying to solve for is how many groups of 52 can fit into 129. Now for this one, instead of estimating, I want us to use our number sense. And in this problem, if I have the number 52, I know that I can round 52 down to 50. And if I think about what 50 plus 50 is, or what 50 times 2 is, I know that that equals 100. I even have my multiples of 50 over here right now. So when I think about it, if I were to do 50 times 2, that would give me 100, which would fit. But if I did 50 times 3, that would be way too big. And 52 times 3 would definitely be way too big. But if I did 52 times 2, that would probably fit. So I'm going to put a 2 up here using that number sense. I'm not going to use the estimate step right now because I'm just kind of estimating in my head using my number sense to help me out. So then I'm going to solve for 52 times 2. And we'll see what that is. 2 times 2 is 4. 5 times 2 is 10. And I get 104. And 104 does fit into 129, so that's perfect. And if I did add another 52 on, it definitely would have been way over 129. So now we're going to subtract. We're on our subtract step. So we have 9 minus 4, which is 5. 2 minus 0 is 2. And then this gives me my final answer, because I have nothing left to bring down, of 82, remainder 25. And of course, please make sure you have all of this written down. And then for our next step, what we are going to do is we are going to check. So remember, we want to take this number times this number. So our divisor times our quotient. So 2 times 2 is 4, 5 times 2 is 10. Add the 0 because this 8 is in the tens place. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 5 is 40, and 40 plus 1 is 41. And then I add everything up, and I have 4,264. Remember, I'm not done just yet. I still need to add on my remainder. So I have 4,264 plus 25. 4 plus 5 is 9. 6 plus 2 is 8. 2 and 4, which gives me 4,289. This number matches here and here, so I know that I'm on the right track, and I most likely got the correct answer. Again, please make sure you have all of this written down. We just have one more problem to do together, so please get ready for our last problem. This space is a little bit small, so if you need scratch paper or to work on your desk because the space is small in your notes, that is totally fine. So let me erase. And for this next problem, we're going to be solving for 6,649 divided by 63. And this problem is going to have a trick, so make sure you're looking out for it. So as always, I usually want to write my standard algorithm first so I can see what I'm trying to solve for. And what I'm going to start off with is just checking where I should start in my problem. So do I start here, 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 or here? So 63, can it fit into 6? No, so I'm not going to start there. 63, can it fit into 66? Yes, it can, so I'm going to start in this place value right here. So I need to figure out, well, 63 times what, or how many groups of 63 can fit into 66? Well, if I use my number sense, I know that 63 times 1 is 63, and that's probably as close as I'm going to get, because if I do 63 times 2, that number is going to be 126. I know that's going to be way too big. So I'm going to put a number 1 right here, and I'm going to solve for 63 times 1. 63 times 1 is 63, and then I'm going to subtract. So I do 6 minus 3, which is 3. I'm not going to worry about writing that 0. And now I'm at the step where I need to bring down. So I bring down this 4 right here. And when I bring down this 4, I run into a kind of problem. And this problem is that I'm trying to fit 63 into 34. But if I think about it, 63 is bigger than 34, so I can't fit it into there. So what I need to think about is, well, do I just skip all the way to this place value? No, I have to fill in something here. I can't leave this place value empty. So what I need to show is that 63 times nothing, or 63 times 0, fits into 34. So that's like my division step. How many groups of 63 fit into 34? 0 groups of 63 fit into 34. So that is why we write that 0 there. And now I'm on my multiply step. So for my multiply step, I do 63 times 0, which is just 0. And now I'm on my subtract step. So I do 34 minus 0, and that is just 34. And now I'm on my bring down step. And now I bring this 9 all the way down, and I can continue solving my problem. And now I'm trying to figure out how many groups of 63 can fit into 349. And this is a problem I would probably want to estimate for because it's going to help me out. So I have 349 divided by 63. And for this one, again, I'm going to think about my divisor. And what multiple of 10 is 63 really close to? Well, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, or 70. Well, 63 is way closer to 60, so I'm going to rewrite this as 60 down here. And then I'm going to list out my multiples of 60 and what multiple of 60 is closest to 349. So I have 60, 120, 180, we have 240, we have 300, and we have 360. So for this one, I really don't want to go over the number 349, so I'm not going to use 360, but I'm going to use the number 300. So I'm going to write the number 300 right here, and then I'm going to solve for 300 divided by 60. There's only one 0 over here, so I cross off 1 0, and I cross off 1 0 over here. Then I'm going to solve for 30 divided by 6, and 30 divided by 6 is 5. Remember, if you don't know how to do that division fact, you can always think of 6 times what equals 30, and 6 times 5 equals 30. So what this number tells me is that this number might be a good number to put in my quotients. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to check that this number works, and I also need to figure out what this number is right here. So I'm going to do 63 times 5. So I'm doing a multiply step. I have 3 times 5, which is 15. 6 times 5 is 30, and 30 plus 1 is 315. 315, using my number sense, looks like as close as I'm going to get to 349 without going over. And I'm just going to check that now by subtracting. So I do 9 minus 5, which is 4, and 4 minus 1, which is 3. My remainder is much smaller than my divisor, so that is a really good sign, which shows that my answer is 105, remainder 34. I now need to check my answer. So to do that, remember I like to take this number times my divisor. Since this number is larger, I'm going to put this one on the top. I know usually I do this times this, but in this case I'm going to just flip-flop the order because I usually want the larger number on top. So we're going to solve for 105 times 63. 5 times 3 is 15. 0 times 3 is 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. 3 times 1 is 3. Then I add a 0 because I'm multiplying the 6 in the tens place. 6 times 5 is 30. Carry the 3, leave the 0. 6 times 0 is 0, but 0 plus 3 is 3. And then I do 6 times 1, which is 6. And then I add everything up. I have 5 plus 0, which is 5. 1 plus 0, which is 1. And then I have 3 plus 3, which is 6. And 6 plus nothing is just 6. So I have 6,615. But remember, I still need to add my remainder. So I do 6,615 plus 34. 5 plus 4 is 9. 1 plus 3 is 4, 6, and 6, which gives me 6,649. This number matches here and here, so I know that my answer is correct, and my final answer for this problem is 105, remainder 34. Now, for your U-try problem, you are going to be doing the problem 3,164 divided by 45. For this problem, this one is very similar to number 2, so you might want to look at number 2 when you're solving this one if you get stuck. If you don't have enough space, because I know this is a tiny area, please get a scratch piece of paper to help you out with that. Good luck today and great job.